on both sides of the ball. You see here their offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak is now the head coach of the Raiders. Star running back Kenneth Walker, who was Super Bowl MVP, now plays for the Chiefs. You see their assistant GM is now the GM of the Minnesota Vikings, Nolan Teasley. So they have a lot to address this off, or they had a lot to address this off season. But you know, they figured out who they needed to keep and who they wanted to build around. And Sam Darnold is going to be the quarterback there again, Mina. He had success in his first year, obviously, in Seattle. It went well for him, went well for them. But with all these changes and a new coordinator, what's the most important thing he needs to do to continue his progression there?
Yeah, I think for Brian Fleury, the new offensive coordinator, the job is something that Clint Kubiak did his best at, but at times it was a little bit up and down in terms of Seattle's offense, and that's keeping Sam Darnold out of 3rd and long. Obviously, that's true of any quarterback. It's harder on 3rd and long, but especially true for Darnold, who on 1st down was a top 10 quarterback in QBR, 8th league-wide. But then on 3rd down, not just 3rd long, he dropped to 26, which was the biggest delta of any quarterback outside of Cam Ward league-wide. And there's plenty of reasons for that. You know, the Seahawks offense, pretty play action centric, which is obviously easier on early downs. Darnold himself has always been somewhat inconsistent against pressure, which is likely to increase again as the downs go on. But I think for Coach Fleury, finding a balance between efficiency and explosiveness on 1st and 2nd down is so important to getting the most out of Sam Darnold. And that starts with the run game as well, which is going to look pretty different with Jerry and Price.
Normally, I would laugh at a nobody believes in us, I have a chip on my shoulder gimmick Super Bowl champion. In this case, it is incredibly valid. The Seahawks are on the short list for most disrespected Super Bowl champions of my lifetime. I think the Eli Giants are on that list twice. I think that the Von Miller, Peyton Manning Broncos are on that list. But it feels like the day after the Super Bowl, we started a new conversation about everybody but the Seahawks. And we've glossed over the fact that in the Super Bowl, they had a 50% pressure rate on Drake May, that they hit the ball carrier in the backfield over half the time. One of the best postseason performances in both regards in the history of the NFL. Last year, regular season, 2nd best pass defense per play in the NFL the entire season. Defense, best at limiting explosive plays on the ground. They're an unbelievable team. They didn't lose that much. And the fact that we just moved on from them and started talking about the Rams and all these teams we're going to talk about later is disrespectful to everybody. Having said that, I'm picking the Rams to win the NFC.
It's going to be hard to move on from Seattle because they're going to be just fine offensively. I did make some calls before I came to the show, a little bit of intel on Seattle. More motions and shifts in the offense. They will have that with Brian Fleury. I'm told that Sam Darnold's really comfortable with that. Rashid Shaheed, we know he's fast. Yeah. He had a major spring, I was told. He and Sam Darnold hitting it off. They're going to give him more. Some of those routes you saw that Jackson Smith and Jigba was running so well last year, he'll still do this, but they're going to give more short to intermediate stuff too to Rashid Shaheed. He's going to be a big-time player for them. They feel comfortable. Those tight ends are going to be moving all around with the motion that they're going to be doing.
That's the thing. We talk about who they lost, but they made a point to keep certain guys, Rashid Shaheed among them. Seahawks veterans report to training camp exactly 4 weeks from today on July 24th. That just feels sooner than I expected it to. Let's get to some top stories around the NFL as we get closer to training camps. Jeremy, what do you got in that notebook?
Let's start with Brandon Ayuk, who will probably post an IG story at some point in the next 20 or 30 seconds as I'm posting this here, but he has not applied for reinstatement because he's on the left squad list for the 49ers. He has to send a formal letter to Commissioner Goodell. Hasn't happened as far as I know. Hasn't got any clarity as to when he's going to be cut or traded, released, whatever, but teams consider him untradeable at this point. So he wants to go to Washington. That's clear. I'm told the Commanders are going to wait to sign any receiver. Bijan Robinson, he's going to be the next name most likely to crack the bank at running back. The Atlanta Falcons are paying players right now. Drake London paid. Kyle Pitts paid. Robinson, they hope to pay. They're motivated. No deal imminent yet, but they have been talking. Watch for Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit, too. There's going to be some major money spent for guys who could be making over $20 million per year in that market when it's all said and done. And then finally, you have quarterbacks getting healthy. You see Bo Nix there. Except were beat up this spring, coming back from injuries. Daniel Jones, you see him on the Achilles tear. I'm told he expects to be doing 11-man work when they get back to camp. Bo Nix, Denver expects him to be full go when they get back to camp in late July. You see Patrick Mahomes, that's a little more fluid just because of the severity of that injury, but They are leaning into him potentially playing week 1. He's progressed really well, so I wouldn't put anything past him as far as what he can handle when they report to camp.
Mahomes would like to get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl. Of course, the last time they played in the Super Bowl, they lost to the Eagles, and who had a monster defense at that point. They've changed a lot on the defensive side of the ball, have the Eagles, since that time. And since last season ended, in fact, Jalen Phillips and Nakobe Dean are gone. They traded for pass rusher Jonathan Grenard. So a little turnover there on that side of the ball, but All-Pro linebacker Zach Bond is still there, and he recently spoke about his expectations for Vic Fangio's new-look defense as they head into 2026.
I feel like he's taking things to the next level this year in terms of he knows we're comfortable, and we know our scheme, and what he knows us, and he knows what we're capable of. Even within his own scheme, he continues to develop and tweak and change, and that's what Vic is. He's a hard-nosed, old-school football coach that if you're willing to learn and listen to what he has to say, it could be really good for you, and I think it's been really good for this defense.
Kevin, we've talked so much this offseason about the Eagles' offense.
Yep.
A.J. Brown getting traded, Jalen Hurts on the hot seat, et cetera, et cetera. Not much focus on the defense. Do you agree with what Zach Bond had to say about it?
Absolutely. They're one of the highest floor units in the entire league. Bond himself, one of the most productive off-ball linebackers there is in this league. Quinyon Mitchell, one of the best cornerbacks, period. Last year, best separation from receivers in all of football, lowest catch rate for receivers in all of football when he was the closest defender. So you're seeing Vic Fangio, who, by the way, invented modern defense. He's still there with a bunch of talented guys. The one guy I'd like to see a little more from, Jalen Carter last year. He had a career low in double teams faced, and yet had a career low in getting to the quarterback. I'd like to see a little more from him in a huge year, obviously. But this is a high floor unit. We talk about the offense because they're so high variable, but this defense has to be good for them to compete.
I'm super high on the Eagles defense being as good as they were last season. I think it's going to be important too, because with so many changes on offense, it might take a little bit of time, right, for the new offense with Sean Mannion as a coordinator to click, and the defense can hold them up during that period early in the season. The biggest weakness last year on the Eagles defense was that second cornerback position. They addressed it, adding Tariq Woolen, who I think is going to get his hands on a lot of footballs. The loss of Jalen Phillips, I know they wanted to re-sign him after trading for him. That's a big deal, but I do think Jonathan Grenard is a comparable player. And then one player who I'm really interested in watching this season and optimistic about is Jihad Campbell, who was their first-round draft pick last year. Didn't get to play a lot because Nakobe Dean, took so many reps as a starter there. But when he did play, I think you saw flashes of why he went in the first round. The athleticism, the coverage ability, the playmaking. And that's a position where more often than not, it does take a second for things to really click in the NFL because it's so challenging. So if he can take that leap next to Zach Bond, I do think this has the makings yet again of another elite Eagles defense under Vic Fangio.
Mina, the Eagles can make a compelling case that they have the league's best duo at two different positions. Defensive tackle, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. They were dominant last year. Although Carter, they want to see him do it more consistently. Cornerback, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. So when you have that, it's hard to be bad. Like, they're going to be in a position where they can kick him early in the season. Remember, this is an offense in transition with Sean Mannion, new coordinator. They're going to be doing more play action, under center work. Could take them a little time to get their stride. So they're going to rely on Carter and that defense. Speaking of Carter, he's eligible for a contract extension right now. We saw what Jeffrey Simmons just got, about $35 million a year. That's the defensive tackle market. Will the Eagles meet him in that range will be a big theme this summer.
Story to watch as we go through the summer, the Carter contract extension talks, if they are in fact happening. Only the Broncos have allowed fewer points per game over the last 2 years than the Eagles. Again, we talk so much about their offense, sometimes we forget. New on NFL Live from Adam Schefter. More bad news for Brendan Sorsby. The CFL will not allow Sorsby to join its league this season. In a statement to USA Today, the CFL said, upholding the integrity of the league and ensuring fair competition are paramount to the CFL. The allegations involving Brendan Sorsby are serious and concerning. So Sorsby running out of options if he inside tight end university. However, that is not the only new tradition that position group has started in the last couple of years. We take a look inside a tradition that's been going on for the past 5 seasons in the NFL and is near and dear to George Kittle's heart. It is National Tight Ends Day. Hannah Storm sat down with Kittle to learn all about the evolution of a holiday to honor the tight end.
He is going off on National Tight End Day.
I got you so good.
Caught by George Kittle.
How do you see the evolution of the tight end?
Ooh, I really say like the last 10 years, more teams are like forcing the issue of using a tight end. If you look at every team that's played in the Super Bowl, let alone win it, they've all had like elite tight ends playing for them. You had Gronk do it for the Patriots for a long time. Travis Dunn with the Chiefs. Teams are like, oh wow, these tight ends are making big plays. Why don't we just put emphasis on our tight end position? So now you see elite tight ends all over the field, all over the league, which is pretty sick.
As an all-pro tight end, and then know what the position is.
Sick.
As an all-pro tight end, and then know what the position
Yes.
is today. How do you view that evolution?
I look at it like the last 10, 15 years, like, because when I was growing up, you saw fantastic tight ends. They kind of took the tight end position from a sixth offensive lineman to a guy who could kind of do it all. Jeremy Shockey, who's like the first trailblazer, like a crazy guy playing football. When people saw Gronk and the success that he had, teams were like, I got to find the next Gronk.
You want one guy on this football team to get the ball. You want George Kittle. That was sick. Know your role and shut your mouth.
All right, build me the perfect tight end, and you have to be included in this.
Okay,
so
cool.
we're talking like route running, best hands, like the whole thing.
Let's see. I go route running. I'm going to take Trav just because if you take his route running, then maybe you get the Chiefs offense where he can do anything that he wants to do, which is really fun to watch. Blocking, I'm going to take my guy Josh Oliver with the Vikings because he's a sturdy human being. I'm going to take myself for speed because I'm still very fast. Hands, I'm going to go Trey McBride. Very good. A ton of catches last year. Aura, I'm going to take TJ Hawkinson because he looks like a Viking.
Oh, aura. Aura is very important. There's something about like tight ends and personality.
Man, I done tripped over somebody's foot.
No, you didn't. That was all me.
I just think it's hilarious because like 90% of the NFL tight ends have the same sense of humor, and it's really funny.
Tight end day, that was coined by Jimmy Garoppolo, right?
was.
That wasn't your idea, although you embraced it and
did.
made it into a national holiday.
The following year, NFL was like, hey, we're going to do something with this. I was like, yeah, sure. Well, we can have some fun with it. And now it should be on there.
It's crazy. All these people came out for National Tight Ends Day. How beautiful.
Happy Tight Ends Day to all you fellow tight ends.
It's your birthday, right?
National Tight Ends Day. Same thing though.
The tight ends are actually producing more than ever before, and league-wide, the position combined for the most receptions last year in any season of all time by tight ends. Also, there were more than 1,800 plays run with at least 3 tight ends on the field last season. That's the most in any season since we've been tracking that since 2007. So here's more from Kittle on where he hopes the tight end position can go from here.
I want to help guys because I want the tight end position to continue to grow. And I think in the last several years, you've seen more tight ends go to the 12 personnel with 2 tight ends and the 13 personnel like the Rams do with 3 tight ends and have a ton of success with it because every time you have a really good tight end on your roster, you have a great team. And when you have multiple good tight ends on your roster, you have a playoff team.
So, Mina, Kittle's talking about a trend. Do you see this as a trend that continues with this tight end usage in the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this now for a couple of years, really, on NFL Live, focused on it at the beginning of last season. And the reasons have a lot to do with how football has evolved going back 5-10 years. You know, if you go back further to 2017, 18, 19 or so, as offenses were airing it all over the field, defenses got lighter in response. And then in response to that trend, something we've seen more recently is offenses going a bit heavier, putting tight ends on the field, running the football, and then when defenses have to play left-handed, put an extra linebacker on the field, throwing on them and hitting explosives the way the Rams and Seahawks, for example, did so effectively. So all of this definitely I expect to continue, but I would say this. You can't just say, okay, let's put multiple tight ends on the field and we're going to be the Rams. One, you don't have Sean McVay, obviously, and Matthew Stafford, but also you have to have certain archetypes of tight end to create the sort of conflicts I talked about. When you look at the 4 teams that used 13 personnel the most effectively last year, 3 tight ends, the Rams are obviously up there, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Steelers, actually, and in terms of EPA per play. And when you look at all of those teams, they all have different types of tight ends. They all have really effective blocking tight ends. The Rams have Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee. The Ravens had Charlie Kolar. Mark Andrews is an all-around tight end. The Steelers have Darnell Washington, who's basically an offensive lineman. The Bills have Dawson Knox is more complete and Jackson Haas. But then they also all have tight ends who can stretch the field. The Rams drafted Terrence Ferguson last year. The Ravens had Isaiah Likely. The Steelers had Pratt Freiermuth, and the Bills have Dalton Kincaid. So all which is to say, if that's the sort of offense you run, you have to be able, when your tight ends are on the field, to threaten both on the ground opportunities through the air. Not every team has that variety of tight end on their roster.
Darnell Washington just trying to have a nice Friday, and then he finds out he's basically an offensive lineman, Mina.
He knows.
Listen, all these tight ends are available. We can get them. We can talk to them about it. Okay, let's talk about how the league is changing in front of our eyes. Last year, the Rams averaged over 5 yards per carry and 8 yards per drop back when they had 3 tight ends on the field. This is just common sense. So saith the great poet Chip Kelly, big people beat up little people. And you're seeing all sorts of reasons the teams are going towards more tight ends. Obviously, Travis Kelce's been doing it for years. He just sits down in zone and they complete a pass. But some of these offenses are just going around, and because it's frustrating because they can't move the ball. All of a sudden, they're moving guys out of the way in the run game. They're going out and realizing these teams are not equipped to go 3 deep or 4 deep at linebacker because they invested at nickelback or a third safety or some of these positions that started to gain investment because of how many wide receivers were on the field. The game is always a chess match, and every team started to gear their defense towards 4 or even 5 receivers. It's swinging back, and they do not have the defense to match the chess pieces with what the tight ends are bringing. If you're a linebacker right now, the world is about to be very good for you in the next 3 or 4 years.
Hey, Kevin, we have the ultimate case study right now for this year, the Chicago Bears. Perfect example because they have the young, exciting, ascending star in Colston Loveland, the first-round pick. Then they got the older, steady veteran who's still really good in Cole Kmet. And then they double down, triple down actually, and draft Sam Roush in the middle rounds, who's a blocker and a little bit of a do-it-all guy. So to people around the league, hey, would they just trade Cole Kmet because they have all these guys? Like, no. They're keeping 3 because they're going to play all 3 most likely. Sean McVay showed last year you can throw out of those sets. They surprised a lot of coaches last year by doing that. It keeps your quarterback healthy because he can play under center. He can hand it off if you need to, run the play action. And also, I think tight ends should be paid more now. We're glorifying tight ends. Their market is still down there below $20 million per year with the Rex. They do a lot. They need to get paid probably a little bit more at some point.
Jeremy Fowler will be speaking at next year's Tight End University as a result of that commentary. Hey, the Bears weren't the only team to draft a tight end. There were actually 17 tight ends drafted in the first 5 rounds this year, most of any in the common draft era.
All Jaguars.
Still to come, following a AFC North as training camp approaches. Let's start with the reigning division champion Pittsburgh Steelers, who won the North despite ranking 25th in the NFL in explosive plays, which was last among playoff teams. Kevin, they got a new head coach in Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy brings a new offense. Do you see him improving that explosive play stat?
No, I don't, Graz. My friends on Instagram who are still mad at me for my Steelers takes the last few weeks are going to get mad again. I don't think it was a scheme thing last year. I don't think Arthur Smith was telling Aaron Rodgers to throw less than 10 yards at a historically high rate. I think it was Aaron Rodgers trying to get rid of the ball. He does not have, I think he would admit this, the same level of athleticism he had a few years ago. He's trying to get rid of the ball quickly. That leads less explosive plays on the field.
I'd be interested to know if he would admit that. To Cleveland, where the annual quarterback competition is heating up and the Browns are looking to finally get some consistency at the position. No quarterback has started more than 7 games in a season for the Browns over the last 3 years. They're the only team in the NFL without a quarterback that started at least 10 games in a season since 2023. So, Jeremy, it seems like it's down to Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson out there. Which one gives them a better chance of breaking that trend?
Dan, this one is heating up. I'm told the Browns want to see more. So we're talking multiple weeks in training camp, going back and forth, first team, second team, who can win the job? As was told to me, Deshaun Watson entered OTAs and minicamp as the favorite. Probably still is, but Shedeur Sanders has closed the gap at least somewhat. So he's been decisive, shown a little bit of a presence. We'll see where it goes.
Death, taxes, and Browns don't
want to see more
quarterback.
Yes.
To Baltimore, where new Ravens head coach Jesse Minter is going to try and improve a pass rush that only produced 30 sacks last season, tied for 28th in the NFL. The addition of Trey Hendrickson ought to help, and they also drafted Zion Young with their second-round pick. So, Mina, have the Ravens done enough this offseason to improve their pass rush?
I think so. The question for me is not whether it'll be improved. I think it will be. Granted, it was very bad last year. But whether it has the potential to be a great pass rush, and that I think is contingent on a player you haven't mentioned, Nnamdi Madubuike. Because if he is back in this lineup, and that's the highest paid defensive player in the roster, right? He's the defensive tackle, or highest paid defensive tackle, rather. That's a very scary defensive line with him, Travis Jones. They brought Calais Campbell, and then, of course, Hendrickson opposite Zion Young, Mike Green, Tavius Robinson. That's a good group. But Madubuike makes it a great group if he's healthy.
Yeah, a big storyline there in Baltimore to monitor as the offseason moves along to Cincinnati now, where the Bengals seem like they're trending in the right direction with a fully healthy Joe Burrow entering this year's offseason. We haven't been able to say that too often. Adam Schefter has us covered as his offseason storylines continue today with Burrow and the Bengals, who head into the 2026 season with high aspirations.
Yeah, obviously we haven't been where we want to be the last 3 years. Something's got to change, whether it's players that we have continuing to improve and get better, or bringing guys in. You know, if I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it.
Not only is Joe Burrow healthy, but so is the Cincinnati Bengals schedule. There aren't many, if any, teams in the league with a schedule that sets up for as much success this season as the Bengals. Based on their opponents' 2025 records, the Bengals are projected to have the NFL's third easiest schedule. And despite the fact that they finished 6-11 last season, Cincinnati is still favored in 15 of its 17 games this season. The only way to explain the flip, how a team so bad last season could be so good this season, is its quarterback.
Hey, we got to remind everybody who the we are today.
Burrow is healthy. His left turf toe injury is better. The torn ligament in his right wrist appears to be healthy. And the ball, once again, is flying out of his hand.
I expect to play for a long time, and I'm consistently great for a long time.
Not only is Burrow better, but so is the Bengals roster. The Bengals fortified their defense through free agency, a Dexter Lawrence trade, and the draft.
I think this is the most talented roster that we've had since I've been here.
And there it is from the man himself, a quarterback who already has played one Super Bowl in Los Angeles, now has his sights set on getting back there for another. And why not? The Bengals have better personnel, they have a favorable schedule, they have a healthy quarterback, and this season, they have a real chance.
Kevin, you heard Joe Burrow say this is the most talented team they've had in Cincinnati since he got there. What are your expectations for this team?
I think they're probably going to make the Super Bowl, Dan Graziano. If I'm just looking at it, obviously the offense is going to have a high floor. They're going to be at worst a top 3 unit if everybody is healthy. They have an offensive line to go along with the skill position guys that is better maybe nationally than is given credit for. And then I look at the defense and the changes that they've made. The pass rush might be better than it was a year ago, but then I look at their big problem. Their Achilles heel last year was missed tackles. So they went out and replaced Geno Stone, who was a big offender in the missed tackle department, and got Brian Cook from Kansas City. Brian Cook was the 4th best tackler in the entire league last year. So they go from a weakness to a strength there. Al Golden, the defensive coordinator, got better as the year went along. I like these Bengals in the AFC, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense has a good chance of improving a great deal. Still a little bit worried about the run defense and the linebacker position. The defense has a good chance of improving a great deal. Still a little bit worried about the run defense and the linebacker position, but the improvements up front and on the back end that Kevin alluded to will definitely be helpful. As far as the offense goes, you know, I know we all assume if Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins are there, it's a top 5 offense. I think that's a healthy assumption, especially with the improved offensive line. But I do think there's room for them to improve upon what we've seen even when all 3 of those guys have played, and that's on the ground. Something that I've heard Burrow speaking to recently. This is a run game that really was quite efficient last season, but not explosive, despite the fact that they faced the second highest rate of light boxes in football, for obvious reasons with the passing attack. They were 27th league-wide in explosive run rate. And that, to me, is something they have to figure out how to get better at to make this offense more balanced, because that's another way to help the defense. Just string together long drives and keep opposing offenses off the field. It is something certainly that Cincinnati's capable of.
Nina, the Dexter Lawrence acquisition cannot be overstated. The Bengals went out, put it on the line, gave up a top 10 pick to get him. That's very un-Bengals-like, like deep front. They believe, and most around the league know, that when he's highly motivated, he is next to impossible to stop, constant double teams. They feel like they have that. They feel like he's happy because he got two things he wanted: a new contract and new relationships. He was done with the Giants relationship. I'm told he's been a fixture in the building all offseason. He's been a nice tone setter. They got a rotation of 5 to 6 guys on the D-line they really like, mix of veterans and young players. So they're looking up. And Mina, I just looked up that stat, literally Bengals 29th in rushing. Like, that's an area on offense where they could majorly improve.
Absolutely. You know, the last time they had a top 10 defense was 2022. It was the year after they went to the Super Bowl, but they did go back to the AFC Championship game that year. More to come on NFL Live. Matthew Stafford recently spoke about getting some advice from Tom Brady and Drew Brees about playing into his 40s.
As I was talking to Drew, this was before last season, and he was like, "How old are you again?" I was like, "I'm 37." He was like, "You might have your best 5 years of your career coming up," you know, and I was like, huh. You know, I never really thought about it that way. Drew saying that kind of lit a fire under me and gives you a little bit of belief that maybe an old guy can still go out there and spin it around a little bit.
Sounds good, but Drew Brees did not actually have 5 more great years after that age. Kevin, do you think that Stafford does?
As someone who's a little older than Matthew Stafford, hearing the phrase old guy was a little depressing, but yes, I do believe that Matthew Stafford has a lot of good football in front of him. I talked to a lot of coaches and defensive coordinators and even players the last couple months and asked them the same question. I say, what quarterback keeps you up at night? And maybe 80 to 90% of players say Matthew Stafford because of how smart he is. The way guys train now, it's totally different. Stafford's going to play amazing ball.
Big part of that last year was the Rams keeping Stafford up. He was sacked on 4% of his dropbacks last year, 3rd fewest in the NFL. Staying in the NFC West, Cardinals rookie Jeremiah Love spoke this week about his
year. After that, things will probably start looking up. So I'm not questioning his career trajectory. I am just questioning how effective he can be this season.
Yeah, fortunately, they get to ease into it. Cardinals' first 3 games are at the Chargers, home to the Seahawks, and at the 49ers. So good luck, Jeremiah Love. To Houston now, where Texans offensive coordinator Nick Caley recently spoke about C.J. Stroud and the offense looking to improve after a good second half of last season. Caley said, quote, "There was a lot of progress that CJ and the offense made last year. We continued to get better from the start of the season to the end of the regular season and just continued to make progress from week to week. So we're going to continue to build on that. It's a new year. CJ has done a great job out here. Looks good, locked in." Jeremy, CJ seemingly the guy in Houston. Do you expect him to get a contract extension anytime soon?
Well, Houston's going to have to change that because right now there's not a lot of momentum on a deal. Talks are essentially on pause as of now. Now, Houston has been aggressive paying players. They've been paying defensive players like Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, Azeez Al-Shaair. So if they want to take care of Stroud, they're going to have to make some progress this summer. Otherwise, there are some people around the league who very much believe he will play out the 4th year of his deal. Similar to the Trevor Lawrence situation a couple years ago. You have a top pick who showed some good, some bad. You got to decide, do you pay him early or do you wait?
So it could end up being a kind of a prove-it year for Stroud in Houston. Mina, what's the key for Stroud and this Houston offense to show what Nick Caley wants him to show this year?
I think Houston can do a better job of supporting him this season, but if they can run the football better. So C.J. Stroud's superpower as a quarterback is throwing in breakers. Digs, crossers, slants. He is last year was first league-wide in success rate on in-breakers, tied for first with Jared Goff in EPA per play. And some of that has to do with Nico Collins on the receiving end, who's also, that's also his superpower, is catching those types of passes. But it's a phenomenal skill set, and one that I think the Texans haven't been able to lean into, or at least get the most out of because of the lack of an efficient and explosive running game. Because think about it, if they were able to draw draw linebackers up more often, there'd be voids thrown over the middle of the field. If they were to draw safeties up, they would face single high coverage, giving catch and run opportunities to those receivers. But because defenses aren't afraid of the Texans' run game, they do limit them at extent, and it creates a lot of third and longs for C.J. Stroud. So I think CJ obviously has to be better than what we saw in his last performance, but the Texans' run game, most importantly, needs to be better to get the most out of CJ Stroud.
Jeremy Fowler said that the Texans are taking care of a lot of players and spending a lot of money, especially on the defensive side of the ball. What they're doing is paying undeniable players, and the last couple of years, CJ Stroud simply has not been undeniable. That is the biggest X factor in the league. I mean, if he goes back to rookie year CJ Stroud, they win the Super Bowl. It's the easiest equation in the entire league. The problem is that seems to get further and further away every single year. He wasn't bad last season until the end. I think as he got banged up and returned from injury, I think he got a little more uncomfortable with his legs, and in the playoffs, obviously he didn't take care of the ball at all. I see them as a little bit similar to the Seahawks in the sense that if CJ Stroud takes care of the ball and lets the defense do its job, they can get really, really far in these playoffs. Even if he's not the 9th best quarterback, he can be the 15th best quarterback. CJ Stroud, watch some Sam Darnold playoff tape and do the rest from there.
Texans, another team that has a little bit of a challenging start to the season. 2 home games, but they're against the Bills and the Bengals, who we expect to be a couple of AFC contenders, along with